Welcome to America's spaceport, the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where in just about 4 hours from now, that Dragon spacecraft sitting on top of a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket that you see right there will launch Crew 7 to the International Space Station. And we'll
now of the current crew, Anne McLean is the astronaut support person, the ASP, that's in the role for our office, just like I did back in that previous video for Crew 2. So we are part of that team of the SpaceX Ninjas, helping the crews with those last preparations, getting into their suits, doing all the pressure checks, making sure that everything is proceeding nominally towards our launch. And it's nice because all of those other ninjas down there in those black suits, those are all SpaceX personnel. But the key is that we wanted to have some member from our NASA astronaut office there as well to still be supporting the crew for anything that they need. So that's why we have one NASA astronaut integrated with the team there. And as you mentioned, we actually go all the way to the launch pad as well. So at that time point when we are up on the launch pad getting ready for that final ingress, we're the only NASA person that is there at that moment. SpaceX, of course, we completely trust them to get everything ready for us for launch day, but it's nice to still have a representative body there for anything that is needed during that time period. So you'll see Anne McLean in a couple of these shots. I didn't see her number. Did you see her number there?
She is number
midst of her pressure check, and looks to me like everything is going well. But of course, we want to make sure that those suits have good integrity in the event that we would ever have to use them on board the vehicle. There's Andy Mogensen sitting to her right. His visor's still up, so it looks like perhaps his test has not been initiated yet. And I believe they do perform these one at a time. So Andy has a few minutes there just to kind of relax. You can see the Danish flag on the left of Andy's suit because he is a European Space Agency astronaut, and he is from Denmark. And a few techniques, and I guess they're well on their way.
As you're listening to all this great information and insight from Jessica, we want to invite you, the audience out there, to participate. If you'd like to ask Jessica a question over the next 3 hours, jump on X, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, and send your question with the hashtag AskNASA. We look forward to hearing your question.
Until the commander loses. And the idea there is that they want Jasmin, the commander, to finally lose that card game and get all that bad luck out of the way before the mission. So here they are. I see Joe's shuffling the cards
shuffling
now.
The deck up. So Joe Acaba on the left, as she mentioned, chief of the astronaut office. On the right, Jasmin Mogbheli, the commander of the Crew 7 mission.
So interestingly, some of the crews have actually changed what games they play over the last several crews. So I'm not even sure what game they're playing right now, but the key is to make sure that Jasmin loses.
And by losing, they all win.
Exactly. Get that?
Right,
it looks like to me.
The bat.
That's great. That is great news. High fives all around. Oh, they're back for more. Looks like these guys are ready to launch today. I love the smiles on their faces.
A lot of enthusiasm, like you said. It gives that, moment of levity. Space flight is serious business. So it's good when you can join around the table with your crew and those who are supporting you and share a moment like this.
Yeah, I can tell you the camaraderie in that room right now is really palpable. You know, that SpaceX team that they have been training with and working with for so long now, preparing them for the flight. All of the different managers like Joe, Norm Knight we saw there in the previous frame. Lots of people that are there for them, supporting them and really enabling this space flight. All the people down to the ones that provide us with all of the things that we're going to fly up there to the space station. So a really great feeling, and I can see those genuine smiles all around tonight.
And it looks like a member of the team received the official playing deck for Crew 7. Astronauts walking down the hallway at astronaut crew quarters. 3 astronauts, 1 cosmonaut of Crew 7 waving as they go by into the elevator, headed down to the first floor. Behind them, Joe Akaba, I believe that's Norm Knight with the Flight Operations Directorate.
It is.
Core on countdown. Crew walkout and suit up room departure is in progress on schedule.
It's impossible to not smile when you're watching them walk out with those smiles on their faces, isn't it? It's contagious.
And here they come. Crew 7 taking their first steps outside before their journey to space.
Again, look at those genuine smiles. You really can't hide the excitement.
From left to right, we have Konstantin Borisov, Andreas Mogensen, Jasmin Mogbheli, and Satoshi Furukawa.
Here we go. You can see some of the NASA administrator there, Bill Nelson, Bob Cabana's there, the associate administrator. We mentioned Pam Melroy already. Everybody's there to cheer them on, send them on their way.
Jasmin is going to be queuing up some Stevie Wonder, Whitney Houston, some hip hop. She's a big hip hop fan. And apparently so is Andreas. So that works well for the commander and the pilot, who will be in the O1 Tesla. Satoshi says he'll crank some 80s Japanese pop music. And I put that on my own music app just to hear a little bit. Unsurprisingly, a lot of synthesizer. Just like you, the astronauts have, as they pass by the Launch Control Center. And as they pass the VAB, we are, of course, reminded, Jessica, as you know all too well, this is the same path that Artemis II astronauts, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen, they will take on their way to Pad 39B for Artemis II's return to the moon.
Yeah, it is incredibly exciting. And look right there. We have a beautiful view of the moon right now. That is gorgeous and such an inspiration.
Absolutely. And this is the same sight that the astronauts will see here. It is a clear Florida night. Winds are calm. We are 95% go in terms of weather. You're looking at the top of the Falcon 9 rocket. You see the Dragon at the very top. And in just a little bit, we'll see the astronauts walk across that crew access arm and into the Dragon.
You know, we complain about these night launches from our point of view and being up all night, but there is something special about them, isn't it? It's really spectacular with all the lights.
It is. It is special, and especially when the rocket goes off and just lights up the sky, turns night into like dawn. I always enjoy that.
Yeah, I think the night launches are more impressive. Just the contrast in the sky, you know.
Absolutely, and you can see how still the winds were from that previous shot. The flags are not moving at all. Of course, we know it because the bugs are buzzing all around. Here we go with our commander and pilot, Jasmin and Andreas, making their way out for a view of the rocket.
And there it is, that traditional lean back. You got to try to take it all in, and it's a tall rocket.
And they've got as I understand it, a very rigid back to the spacesuit, which prevents them from actually turning their heads up. So you've got to turn your entire upper torso in order to see it, right?
That with the helmet being integrated onto the suit, it adds that stiffness as well. Less familiar with everything. They don't have a full understanding of it. And of course, their loved one is sitting on the top of the rocket there. So, you know, it's interesting. People think that it's us that are worried about something on launch day, but it's really not. We're very well trained. We have trust in our hardware, in our systems, and all of the people on the ground watching everything so closely. And, you know, I know for me, I was just nothing other than 100% excited that my childhood dream was finally going to come true.
100%.
Here they come.
And I believe Anne McLean was in this group.
Yeah, there she is by the phone. There's a telephone there on the corner, and that's one of the roles of the astronaut support person. Since it's a little bit difficult to dial things on a telephone when you're in a spacesuit.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah, she actually has phone numbers of whomever the astronaut or cosmonaut is going to call, their spouse, family members, whomever, and they will have an opportunity to speak with them before they board the rocket. But only the 4 of them will be making that final step to space. Everybody else has to come back down the elevator.
That's right. And there's Jasmin Mogbheli, the commander, and Andreas Mogensen, our pilot, making their way across the crew access arm into the White Room, where they'll get into the spacecraft. But first,
Core on
sign that
countdown.
meatball.
Crew have arrived at the White Room and are preparing for ingress. We are on schedule.
Yeah, that other tradition that we talked about. There's the last signature that they'll have to dole out before they get all strapped in. You know, it's interesting when we talk about all these training protocols that we have and the amount of time that we spend training, particularly for contingency scenarios. You know, that's where we really want to make sure that our skills are sharp and we are ready for that in the event of any kind of emergency. We're ready to execute and get the job done. And most of our training for our ISS missions ends up being for launches and landing. And if you think about that, we're talking now about a 6-month mission on the space station, and that ride to space is only a few minutes, a number of hours before they get to space station, and coming down is usually even quicker depending on the profile. So it's really only a minuscule fraction of our entire mission, but because it is such a dynamic phase of getting to space and coming back, that's where a lot of our training is really focused.
There go our pilot and commander carefully getting in. They don't want to mess up that seal, so you'll see him take a lot of time to crawl over that entryway, the side hatch. Which is almost double what the Dragon takes to get there. A lot of that is orbital mechanics, obviously where you're launching from on the Earth to get up to the ISS. But you had a long ride up.
Well, it depends on the profile that you fly. So a lot of times it is about a 48 hours, a 2-day profile. That was more common in the past. Now, actually, it's more common to do either a 4-orbit or a 2-orbit profile, which means it's only about 6 hours. That's what I had, 6 hours to get to space, so much faster. Oh, wow. And that is more common now. And now we even have the 2-orbit. So Laurel O'Hara, her Soyuz will be flying the 2-orbit rendezvous. So that is only about 3 hours, and that happens very quickly.
And here come our mission specialists. On the left, Konstantin Borisov, and on the right, Satoshi Furukawa.
They're even dancing their way down the hallway.
Oh, they're loving it.
Oh, another tradition. A lot of times our astronauts and Konstantin here, you can see taking the name tags of some of their ground support personnel, and they'll be flying those to space with them.
That's got to be really special for those technicians.
The lower set, the more internal set of zippers. Another critical component of the way we do
Core on
things at
countdown.
NASA.
Seat 1 and Seat 4 are beginning their ingress into Dragon. We are on schedule.
You know, safety always comes first. We always have a lot of built-in redundancy to each system, including the spacesuits, to make sure that we can keep everyone on board safe. Another big difference that I'm sure...
For LES arm, propellant load, and launch. For all operators in MCCX and Hangar X, both control rooms go into lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and will remain in that state until the launch escape system is disarmed. All operators are to remain at their console, maintain a sterile cockpit until MD confirms successful disarming the launch escape system following orbit insertion or propellant offload in the event of a scrub. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch audio sequence immediately and proceed into launch abort. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fires imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. Launch control at this time. You may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
Copy, proceeding to arm crew arm for movement.
And with that, we are moving forward toward launch. Propellant loading will begin in just over 5 minutes, but in the meantime, let's check back in with Daryl and Jessica.
That arm moves away because now that means if the astronauts needed to get off that rocket for whatever reason, they could either bring the arm back quickly, and it can move, as I understand it, a lot faster than it's moving now in the case of an emergency egress, or they would move forward and arm the launch escape system. That hasn't been armed yet. So this is the moving and stowing of the crew access arm. So
Dragon,
the launch escape system.
you are go for Section 6, closed visors and arm launch escape system.
Well, they changed the number, but it's the same.
Dragon, copies, go for Section 6, launch escape system arming.
Same milestone.
Propellant load has started.
And so now the propellants are flowing into the Falcon 9 rocket.
There we go ahead and have the Dragon astronauts are standing by for display configuration, which will let them know that we are even closer to liftoff. The launch commit criteria that we're waiting to hear that call out for are specific thresholds and pieces of information about the entire Falcon 9 system needed to make sure that the rocket is healthy. Of course, we do have many systems in place to ensure that the rocket and crew are both safe leading up to liftoff and during flight.
Dragon SpaceX, stand by for final go, but please confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Dragon, crew displays are configured for launch.
In a minute until liftoff today.
Dragon
The
SpaceX,
flight termination
go for launch.
system.
Dragon copies, go for launch.
You heard it. Crew 7 getting the go for launch. Just 30 seconds away for an on-time launch. At the time of liftoff today, the space station will be flying 260 miles over southeastern Iraq.
T-minus 15. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine full power. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Dragon, go Crew 7.
Endurance ascends, an international crew destined for the International Space Station.
Stage 1
That's
propulsion is
1.7
nominal.
million. Good calls from the propulsion officers here. Propulsion's nominal. 1.7 million pounds of thrust on Falcon 9, taking Crew 7 to the International Space Station, now traveling almost 300 miles per hour.
Nominal power and telemetry.
We are just about T
Stage
plus
1 throttle
45
down.
seconds into the 7th rotational crew mission on board Dragon and Falcon 9, and right now the vehicle is throttling down to help us pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure. There's the call out that Crew 7 is now moving faster than the speed of sound.
Stage 1 throttle up.
Confirmation we have moved through max Q and are throttling back up.
Confirmed.
Copy, 1. Copy, 2 Alpha.
MVAC ignition.
So there you heard and saw Miko stage SEP, and hopefully you heard Jasmin call out for the 2 Alpha abort mode just before second stage ignition.
And of course, this is the second stage, powering Dragon on its flight, now traveling almost 4,000 miles per hour. Over 3 minutes since launch, the second stage will continue to power the spacecraft. And our first look at the crew inside
Landing burn start from Falcon 9 any second now. Great views.
Stage 2, FTS saved. Crew 7, on behalf of the Falcon team, I'd like to welcome you to orbit, and we hope you enjoyed the ride on Falcon 9. Space travel is difficult, even though you make it look easy, so thank you for trusting us to get you up there. It's not a bad way to spend a day in the office. Stand by for words from the launch director. Hello, Crew 7. This is Launch Director here on Countdown. On behalf of the entire SpaceX Launch and Recovery team, I'm honored to welcome Dragon's first ever all-international crew to orbit. Счастливого пути, Gotor, Iterashai. Godspeed, Crew 7. Cheers.
SpaceX, thanks for the ride. It was awesome. On behalf of Andy, Satoshi, Koshi, and I, we'd like to thank the multitude of people who've led us to this unique moment. We may have 4 crew members on board from 4 different nations, Denmark, Japan, Russia, and the USA, but we're a united team with a common mission. We hope the do serves to benefit our beautiful home planet and those on it. As you said, human spaceflight requires an unparalleled level of vigilance and rigor, and we thank all those who prepared not only us, but also this truly impressive spacecraft for flight. Finally, to our families, bear the greater burden of our choice to explore. Thank you. Go Crew 7. Awesome ride.